Fleet Commander Vexthal stood before the massive holographic display in the war room of his flagship. The blue light from the projection painted his scaled face in cold shadows as he studied the information floating before him. Around the circular table, his senior officers waited in silence for his decision. The target was a small yellow star called Sol by its inhabitants. The third planet from this star held a species known as humans. For 47 standard years, the Zephyrian Intelligence Network had been watching this primitive world. Every report said the same thing: the humans were weak. They had basic technology. They posed no threat to the mighty Zephyrian hegemony. Vexthal touched a control and the display changed. Now it showed detailed scans of human spacecraft. The ships looked crude and ugly. They were made of simple metal alloys that any civilized species had stopped using thousands of years ago. Their weapons were just metal projectiles fired by chemical explosives. Some of their newer ships used magnetic coils to throw pieces of metal faster, but even these were laughably primitive compared to plasma cannons and energy beams. Intelligence reports that the humans have approximately 200 ships in their entire space fleet, said Commander Zilkar, his head of tactical planning. Her voice carried the confidence of someone who had conquered 12 worlds for the hegemony. Most of these vessels are converted cargo ships with basic defensive weapons. They have never seen energy shields, plasma weaponry, or quantum torpedoes. Vexthal nodded slowly. The humans had only recently learned to travel between planets in their own system. They had never been outside their star system. They had never met another intelligent species. According to the intelligence reports, humans still fought wars on their home planet using chemical weapons and metal bullets. They were centuries behind galactic civilization. Show me their military organization, Vexthal commanded. The display changed again. Now it showed the structure of human military forces. The species was divided into many small nations that often fought each other. They had no unified command structure. Their largest military force belonged to something called the United Earth Defense Force, but this organization was new and still growing. Most human nations kept their own separate military forces and did not trust each other completely. They are fragmented, observed Science Officer Kethmore. His long fingers traced patterns in the air as he manipulated the data display. Even their space forces are divided between different human governments. They have never fought as a single united species. This was important information. The Zephyrians had learned long ago that divided enemies were weak enemies. A species that fought among itself could never stand against a unified galactic power. The humans would probably surrender quickly once they realized how outmatched they were. Vexthal walked around the holographic display, studying every detail. His fleet contained 847 ships. Each ship was equipped with the finest weapons and defenses that Zephyrian technology could provide. His flagship alone carried more firepower than the entire human space fleet. The smallest ship in his armada could destroy any human vessel with a single shot. What about their ground forces? He asked. Commander Zilkar manipulated the display to show human military installations on Earth. Primitive kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, and simple vehicles. They have no energy weapons, no plasma artillery, no gravitational manipulation devices. Their armor is made from metal alloys and ceramic compounds. A single squad of our ground forces could defeat an entire human army. The other officers around the table made sounds of amusement. Some species fought with sticks and stones when Zephyrians first encountered them, but humans seemed to have advanced just enough to think they were dangerous while remaining completely helpless against real military technology. Vexthal studied the tactical projections. The plan was simple and had worked on dozens of other primitive worlds. His fleet would enter the human star system in full force. The sight of so many advanced warships would terrify the humans and convince them that resistance was hopeless. Most primitive species surrendered immediately when they saw a Zephyrian fleet. If the humans were foolish enough to fight, the battle would be over quickly. Zephyrian plasma weapons could destroy human ships from distances the humans could not even detect. Their energy shields would absorb any primitive weapons the humans might fire. The entire human space fleet would be destroyed in minutes. After the space battle, the Zephyrians would demonstrate their power by destroying a few empty buildings on Earth with orbital bombardment. This always convinced primitive species to surrender. Then the humans would be integrated into the galactic community as a tributary species. They would provide raw materials and labor in exchange for protection and basic technology. The Galactic Council has approved the integration of this species, Vexthal announced to his officers. We will follow standard protocol for primitive worlds. Overwhelming display of force, minimal casualties, quick surrender, peaceful integration. The officers around the table nodded. They had done this many times before. Primitive species always followed the same pattern. First they were afraid, then they tried to fight with their crude weapons. Then they realized how hopeless their situation was and surrendered. Within a few years, most of them were grateful to be part of galactic civilization. Sir, said Intelligence Officer Morden, there is one unusual aspect to report about the humans. Vexthal turned to face the intelligence specialist. Morden was known for his careful attention to detail. If he thought something was worth mentioning, it usually was. The humans have an unusual approach to warfare, Morden continued. Our analysis of their historical conflicts shows that they often develop new weapons and tactics during battles. They seem to learn and adapt very quickly when they are threatened. Irrelevant, Commander Zilkar said dismissively. No amount of adaptation can overcome a technology gap of several thousand years. They could invent 100 new tactics and still be helpless against plasma weapons and energy shields. Vexthal was inclined to agree with his tactical commander, but he had learned to listen to intelligence reports carefully. What kind of adaptations have they made? Morden manipulated the display to show historical data about human conflicts. In their most recent global war, they developed atomic weapons in less than 4 years. Before that war, atomic energy was purely theoretical for them. They also created flying machines that could travel faster than sound, electronic computation devices, and guided projectile weapons. Still primitive? Kethmer observed. Atomic weapons are crude compared to plasma cannons. Their fastest aircraft are slower than our slowest cargo ships. True, Morden agreed, but the speed of development is unusual. Most species take decades or centuries to make such advances. Humans seem to progress much faster when they are under pressure. Vexthal considered this information. Even if the humans could develop new weapons quickly, they would not have time to create anything that could threaten his fleet. The battle would be over in hours, possibly minutes. There was no weapon that primitive minds could invent in such a short time that would be effective against Zephyrian technology. We will maintain our standard battle formation, he decided. Full energy shields, maximum weapon range, overwhelming firepower. The humans will see the futility of resistance and surrender quickly. The meeting continued as the officers discussed specific details of the invasion plan. Which ships would enter the system first, how they would position themselves around the human homeworld, what communications they would send to demand surrender. Everything was planned according to procedures that had worked successfully for hundreds of years. The Zephyrian Intelligence Network had provided excellent information about human capabilities, or rather the lack of human capabilities. Every report confirmed that humanity was a typical primitive species with basic technology and no understanding of real warfare. They would be confused and frightened by the appearance of the Zephyrian fleet, and they would surrender quickly to avoid unnecessary destruction. As the meeting ended, Vexthal felt the familiar satisfaction of a commander preparing for an easy victory. His fleet represented the finest military technology in the galaxy. His officers were experienced veterans who had conquered many worlds. The humans were isolated, primitive, and divided among themselves. The integration of Earth would be completed within days, adding another tributary world to the Zephyrian hegemony. The humans would learn to be grateful for the protection and guidance of their galactic superiors. Their primitive weapons and crude spacecraft would be replaced with proper technology designed by civilized species. Vexthel returned to his private quarters to review the final intelligence reports about the Sol system. The data showed exactly what he expected to see: a small, primitive civilization that had barely learned to travel between planets. No energy weapons, no defensive shields, no understanding of galactic technology. The humans had been watching the stars for centuries, apparently hoping to find other intelligent life. Soon they would have their wish granted. They would learn that the galaxy was full of advanced civilizations, and they would discover their place in the cosmic order. What the intelligence reports did not mention, because Zephyrian sensors could not detect it, was that humans had been preparing for this moment far longer than anyone realized. Deep in the asteroid belt of their star system, hidden construction projects had been working in complete secrecy for 30 years. The humans had detected signs of galactic civilization decades ago, and they had been preparing for the day when that civilization would come to Earth, but Fleet Commander Vexthel did not know this as he prepared his fleet for what he expected to be a routine conquest of another primitive world. The hyperspace tunnel collapsed behind the Zephyrian fleet as 847 warships emerged at the edge of the Sol system. Fleet Commander Vexthel stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display as his ships spread into their predetermined formation. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. "Full sensor sweep of the system," he ordered. "Locate all human vessels and defensive installations." The sensor operator, a young officer named Kexaval, bent over his instruments. His 4 hands moved quickly across the control surfaces as the fleets combined. Sensor array began mapping the human star system. Within minutes, they would have a complete picture of human military capabilities. "Sir," Kexaval said, his voice carrying a note of confusion, "I am detecting multiple small craft in the outer system. They appear to be mining operations and research stations." "All very primitive, as expected." Vexthel nodded. Intelligence reports had mentioned that humans were beginning to establish small outposts throughout their system. These would be easy targets to demonstrate Zephyrian power if the humans chose to resist. "What about their military vessels?" asked Commander Zilkar. "Scanning now, sir. One sees several patrol craft near the 4th planet. Small ships, approximately 50 meters in length. Basic fusion drives and primitive weapons as reported." Kexaval paused, adjusting his instruments. "There are larger ships near the 3rd planet, their homeworld. One count ... approximately 200 vessels of various sizes." This matched the intelligence perfectly. The human fleet was exactly where it was supposed to be, with exactly the capabilities they expected. Vexthel felt confident that this operation would proceed smoothly. "Sir," Kexaval said suddenly, his voice changing tone, "I am detecting an unusual energy signature." "Define unusual," Vexthel replied. The young sensor operator's hands moved frantically over his controls. His large eyes grew wider as he studied the readings. "The signature is coming from the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets. It is ... very large, sir." "How large?" "The energy output is reading at approximately 15 million terawatts." Sir, the bridge fell silent. Every officer turned to stare at the sensor operator. 15 million terawatts was more power than some small planets generated. It was impossible for a primitive species to produce such energy levels. "Check your instruments," Commander Zilkar ordered sharply. "There must be an error in your readings." Kexaval ran through his diagnostic procedures twice, then a 3rd time. Each time the readings remained the same. "No error, sir. The signature is definitely there, and it is moving." "Moving?" Vexthel stepped closer to the sensor station. "At what velocity?" "Approximately 0.03 light speed, sir." "And accelerating?" The bridge officers exchanged worried glances. No known propulsion system could accelerate a large object to such speed so quickly. Even Zephyrian ships needed several hours to reach significant fractions of light speed. "What type of vessel produces such a signature?" Vexthel demanded. Kexville consulted his database, comparing the readings to known ship types from across the galaxy. After several minutes, he looked up with a puzzled expression. No match, sir. The energy pattern does not correspond to any known technology in our databases. Science Officer Kethmer moved to a secondary sensor station and began his own analysis. His specialized instruments were designed to analyze unknown phenomena and alien technologies. After a few minutes, he straightened with a deeply concerned expression. Sir, Kethmore reported, the signature is generating its own gravitational field. The mass reading suggests a vessel approximately 3 kilometers in length. Impossible, Zilkar snapped. Intelligence reports indicate that the largest human ship is less than 400 meters long. They do not have the industrial capacity to build something that large. The readings are confirmed, sir, Kethmore replied. Furthermore, the gravitational distortion suggests the vessel has a mass equivalent to a small moon. No known technology can create artificial gravity fields of this magnitude. Vexthal studied the tactical display as his fleet's computers updated the human vessel's position. The unknown ship was indeed moving at incredible speed, and it was heading directly toward his fleet. At its current rate of acceleration, it would reach them in less than 2 hours. Could this be a weapon? He asked his science officer. Kethmore manipulated his instruments, trying to analyze the approaching signature more carefully. Unknown, sir. The energy patterns are unlike anything we have encountered. However, the fact that it is approaching U.S. at high speed suggests hostile intent. Sir, Kexville interrupted, I am detecting additional energy signatures throughout the system. More ships? Negative, sir. These appear to be defensive installations. They are hidden among the asteroids and on small moons throughout the system. I count at least 50 separate installations, all showing significant energy buildup. Vexthal felt the first stirring of unease. The intelligence reports had mentioned nothing about hidden installations or massive battleships. Either human technology had advanced much further than anyone realized, or the humans had been deliberately hiding their true capabilities. Tactical analysis, he ordered Zilkar. His tactical commander studied the new data carefully. If these readings are accurate, sir, the humans appear to have significantly more military capability than our intelligence indicated. However, even with these additions, they are still vastly outnumbered and outgunned by our fleet. What about the large vessel approaching us? Unknown capabilities, sir. Until we can determine what type of weapons it carries, I cannot provide a proper threat assessment. Vexthal made a decision. Send a communication to the approaching vessel. Standard first contact protocol. Inform them that they are in the presence of the Zephyrian hegemony and must surrender immediately. The communication officer began transmitting on multiple frequencies. The message was broadcast in several galactic languages, as well as mathematical concepts that any intelligent species should be able to understand. The response came back almost immediately, but it was not what anyone expected. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Ragnarok. You have entered the Sol system without permission and with hostile intent. You have 30 seconds to reverse course and leave our system, or we will consider you an invading force and respond accordingly. The bridge officers stared at each other in shock. No primitive species had ever issued demands to a Zephyrian fleet. The human captain was either incredibly brave or completely insane. Did she just threaten us? Asked Zilkar in disbelief. Apparently. Vexthal replied. He activated the communication system himself. Human vessel, you are severely outmatched. We have 847 ships equipped with advanced weapons and defenses. You have 1 ship of unknown capability. Surrender now and we will treat you with mercy. The human response was immediate and shocking. Unknown capability? Let me educate you about human capability. This is your final warning. Leave now or face the consequences. Vexthal could not believe what he was hearing. A single primitive ship was threatening his entire fleet. The humans were either bluffing, or they truly did not understand the situation they were in. Sir, Kexville reported urgently, The human ship is continuing to accelerate toward us. Current speed is 0.05 light speed and increasing. At this rate, it will reach us in 43 minutes. And sir, added Kethmore, I am detecting massive energy buildups throughout their ship. Whatever weapons they have, they are preparing to use them. Vexthel studied the tactical display one more time. His fleet was positioned in perfect formation for maximum firepower. His ships carried the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. His officers were experienced veterans of many campaigns. One primitive ship, no matter how large, could not possibly threaten such a force. All ships, battle stations, he ordered. Prepare to engage the approaching human vessel. Full power to weapons and shields. Across the fleet, 847 Zephyrian warships powered up their plasma cannons and energy weapons. Force fields flickered to life around each vessel, creating an invisible barrier that could absorb tremendous amounts of energy. Point defense systems activated, ready to intercept any primitive missiles the humans might fire. Sir, the tactical officer reported, all ships report ready for battle. We have enough firepower to destroy a planet. Good, Vexthel replied. Target the approaching human ship. Prepare to fire on my command. As the minutes passed, the human ship continued its approach. The Zephyrian sensors provided more and more detail about the massive vessel. It was indeed 3 kilometers long, covered in thick armor plating and bristling with weapon systems. But the weapons appeared to be kinetic cannons rather than energy weapons, and there was no sign of defensive. Shields. Primitive kinetic weapons, Zilkar observed with satisfaction. Our shields will absorb their attacks easily. Sir, Kexavel announced, the human ship is now within weapons range. Vexthel looked around his bridge one final time. His officers were ready, his fleet was ready. It was time to teach these primitive humans about the reality of galactic warfare. All ships, he commanded, open fire. 847 Zephyrian warships fired simultaneously. Thousands of plasma beams and energy projectiles streaked across space toward the approaching human battleship. The combined firepower was enough to destroy an entire moon. The plasma beams struck the human ship's hull and something impossible happened. Instead of being vaporized instantly, the ship absorbed the attack. Strange energy fields flickered around its hull, absorbing and redirecting the plasma fire. The massive vessel continued its approach, apparently undamaged. Impossible, Kethmore whispered. No known technology can absorb that much plasma energy. Sir, Kexavel reported with growing alarm, the human ship is returning fire. The weapons that fired from the human battleship were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Instead of energy beams, the ship launched solid projectiles at incredible velocities. The projectiles were moving so fast that they appeared as streaks of light on the sensors. The first projectile struck a Zephyrian cruiser. The ship's energy shields, designed to absorb plasma and laser fire, offered no protection against pure kinetic force. The tungsten rod punched through the shield, as if it did not exist, then through the ship's hull, then out the other side. The cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Shields down on the Kethmore, came the panicked report from the fleet. The ship is destroyed. Before anyone could respond, 2 more projectiles found their targets. 2 more Zephyrian ships died in explosions that lit up the darkness of space. How is this possible? Zilkar demanded. Their weapons are just metal projectiles. Metal projectiles moving at 0.8 light speed, Kethmore corrected grimly. At that velocity, mass becomes the deadliest weapon in the universe. Vexthel stared at the tactical display as more reports flooded in. The human ship was launching. Projectile after projectile, each one finding its target with deadly accuracy. His advanced warships, with their sophisticated shields and armor, were being destroyed by simple chunks of metal moving very, very fast. All ships, evasive maneuvers, he ordered desperately. Maximum acceleration, random patterns. But the human ship seemed to anticipate every move his vessels made. The projectiles kept coming, and Zephyrian ships kept dying. In less than 5 minutes, Vexthel had lost more ships than in his previous 3 campaigns combined. Sir, Kexival reported with terror in his voice, I am detecting thousands of small objects launching from the human ship. They appear to be some kind of autonomous vessels. The sensor display filled with tiny dots, each one moving independently. Toward different targets in the Zephyrian fleet? There were too many to count, too many to intercept, and they were spreading throughout his formation like a deadly swarm. For the first time in his long military career, Fleet Commander Vexthal realized that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not primitive, they were not helpless, and they were definitely not going to surrender. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Use Ragnarok, watching the alien fleet spread across her tactical display like a swarm of angry insects. She had been preparing for this moment for 15 years, ever since Earth's deep space. Monitoring stations first detected signals from an advanced galactic civilization. The bridge around her was unlike anything the aliens would expect from a primitive, human vessel. Instead of the clean, curved surfaces preferred by most galactic species, the Ragnarok's command center was built for function over form. Every surface was covered with displays, controls, and backup systems. The crew wore heavy armor instead of dress uniforms, and every station had emergency supplies within easy reach. Odin, status report, Captain Vasquez commanded. The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. ODN was not just a computer system, but a true thinking machine, one of humanity's greatest achievements. His voice filled the bridge with calm confidence. All systems operating at optimal parameters, Captain. Main kinetic batteries are loaded and ready. Drone bays are fully stocked with 8,000 autonomous attack units. Defensive systems are online. The enemy fleet consists of 847 vessels of unknown design, all equipped with energy weapons and defensive shields. Captain Vasquez nodded. The aliens had opened fire exactly as predicted. Their plasma weapons and energy beams were impressive by galactic standards, but humanity had taken a different path in weapons development, while other species perfected energy manipulation. Humans had learned to weaponize the fundamental forces of physics itself. Odin analyzed their shield technology, she ordered. Analysis complete, Captain. Enemy shields appear to be designed for energy absorption and deflection. They show no defensive capability against kinetic projectiles. Recommendation: proceed with kinetic bombardment as planned. The captain allowed herself a small smile. 30 years of secret preparation were about to pay off. While the galaxy had spent millennia perfecting energy weapons, assuming that all civilizations would follow the same technological path, humanity had done something different. They had built weapons that turned mass and velocity into unstoppable forces of destruction. Lieutenant Chun, signal the alien fleet, Captain Vasquez commanded. Standard warning protocol. Communications Officer Lieutenant Sarah Chun activated the transmitter. Her message went out on all frequencies in multiple languages, including several that Earth's xenolinguistics teams had decoded from intercepted alien communications. Alien fleet, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth. Ship Ragnarok. You have entered the Sol system without permission and with hostile intent. You have 30 seconds to reverse course and leave our system, or we will consider you an invading force and respond accordingly. The alien response came quickly, as expected. The voice that replied sounded confident and dismissive, exactly like the voices of bullies throughout human history who had underestimated their opponents. Human vessel, you are severely outmatched. We have 847 ships equipped with advanced weapons and defenses. You have one ship of unknown capability. Surrender now, and we will treat you with mercy. Captain Vasquez looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were all volunteers, all veterans of Earth's military forces, all true believers in humanity's right to exist as a free species. They had trained for this moment their entire adult lives. Lieutenant Chun, send them our final response, she said. Unknown capability? Let me educate you about human capability. This is your final warning. Leave now or face the consequences. The alien fleet's reaction was predictable. Energy readings spiked across all their ships as they powered up weapons and shields. They were preparing to demonstrate their superiority the way they had probably done to dozens of other primitive species. "Captain," reported Tactical Officer. "Commander James Rodriguez, enemy fleet is charging weapons. They appear to be targeting us for concentrated fire. Odin, activate all defensive systems. Prepare to return fire on my command." The Ragnarok's defensive systems were as revolutionary as its weapons. Instead of energy shields like the aliens used, the human ship relied on layered armor made from metamaterials that could absorb and distribute kinetic energy. The outer hull was designed to deflect plasma fire, while the inner layers could withstand impacts that would destroy conventional armor. "Incoming fire," Rodriguez announced calmly. The alien plasma beam struck the Ragnarok like the fury of an angry star. Thousands of energy weapons fired simultaneously, creating a light show that could be seen from Earth itself. The ship's hull glowed white-hot as the defensive systems absorbed the massive energy discharge. For a moment, the bridge shook as the ship absorbed more energy than most planets received from their suns. Warning lights flashed as the hull temperature rose beyond normal limits. Then the metamaterial armor did its job, spreading the heat across the entire ship structure and radiating it harmlessly into space. "Damage report," Captain Vasquez called out. "Hull temperature elevated but within acceptable limits," ODN reported. "Armor integrity at 97%. All systems functioning normally. Enemy attack was ineffective." The captain could imagine the shock on the alien ships as their most powerful weapons failed to even slow down the human battleship. They had probably never encountered a ship that could absorb such punishment and continue fighting. "Captain," Rodriguez said with grim satisfaction, "we are now within optimal firing range. All batteries, commence firing. Show them what human engineering can accomplish." The Ragnarok's main weapons were electromagnetic railguns that could accelerate tungsten projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. Each projectile was a simple rod of dense metal, but at relativistic velocities. It carried more destructive power than most nuclear weapons. The ship's primary battery consisted of 12 massive railguns, each one capable of firing a projectile every 30 seconds. As the weapons fired, the entire ship shuddered from the recoil forces. The projectiles themselves were invisible to the naked eye, moving too fast to track, but their effects were immediately obvious. The first salvo struck 3 alien cruisers simultaneously. The tungsten rods punched through the energy shields as if they did not exist, then through the ship hulls, then out the other side. The kinetic energy was so great that the alien ship simply exploded, their structures unable to contain the massive forces unleashed by the impacts. "Direct hits on targets Alpha, Beta, and Gamma," Rodriguez reported. "All 3 vessels destroyed." The second salvo fired before the aliens could react. 3 more ships died in brilliant explosions. Then the third salvo and the fourth. The Ragnarok's weapons were designed for sustained fire, and each shot was guaranteed to destroy any target it hit. "Odin, deploy drone swarms," Captain Vasquez ordered. This was the part of the battle plan that the aliens would never expect. While galactic military doctrine emphasized large, expensive fighter craft operated by skilled pilots, humanity had taken a different approach. The Ragnarok carried 8,000 small, autonomous attack drones, each one no larger than a human fist. The drone bay doors opened and the swarms poured out like angry hornets. Each drone was equipped with a small nuclear warhead and programmed with simple instructions: find an enemy ship and detonate against its hull. They were too small for most point defense systems to target effectively, too numerous to intercept them all, and completely expendable. The drones spread throughout the alien formation in seemingly random patterns, but each one was guided by artificial intelligence that calculated the most effective attack routes. Some targeted the larger ships directly, while others focused on the smaller escort vessels. The aliens had never faced such tactics and had no defense against them. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Chun, "we are receiving frantic communications from the alien fleet. They appear to be requesting reinforcements and trying to understand our weapons technology." Any response to our surrender demands? Negative, Captain. They seem to be regrouping for another attack. Captain Vasquez studied the tactical display as alien ships tried desperately to avoid the drone swarms while maintaining their battle formation. Their energy weapons were designed to fight other ships with similar technology, not swarms of tiny autonomous attackers. ODI, analysis of enemy tactics. Enemy fleet is attempting to maintain formation while engaging drone targets. Their point defense systems are designed for large projectiles and are ineffective against small, fast-moving targets. Estimated time to complete drone attack phase, 12 minutes. The ship shuddered again as the main railguns fired another salvo. More alien ships died in brilliant explosions as the tungsten projectiles found their targets. The enemy fleet was beginning to break formation as individual captains tried to save their own ships. "Captain," Rodriguez announced, "enemy casualties now exceed 100 vessels. They are beginning evasive maneuvers." This was exactly what the battle plan had predicted. Alien military doctrine was based on formation fighting and coordinated attacks. When faced with weapons they could not defend against and tactics they had never encountered, their discipline would break down. "Maintain fire on largest targets," Captain Vasquez ordered. "Let the drones handle the smaller ships." The Ragnarok continued its methodical destruction of the alien fleet. Each railgun shot killed another enemy vessel, while the drone swarms created chaos throughout their formation. The aliens were learning a hard lesson about the difference between technological superiority and tactical superiority. Odin, estimated time to complete mission objectives. At current rate of engagement, complete destruction of enemy fleet will require approximately 47 minutes. However, Captain, I am detecting signs that enemy vessels are preparing to withdraw. Captain Vasquez considered this information carefully. The original mission plan called for complete destruction of the invading fleet, but there was value in allowing some ships to escape. Survivors could carry the message back to their leaders that humanity was not the primitive species they had assumed. "Captain," Lieutenant Chun reported urgently, "we are receiving a communication from the enemy fleet commander. He is requesting terms for surrender. Put him through." The voice that came through the speakers was very different from the confident tone of the earlier communications. Now the alien commander sounded desperate and confused. "Human ship, we request immediate ceasefire. We did not understand your capabilities. We wish to withdraw from your system and report this encounter to our superiors." Captain Vasquez looked around her bridge at the determined faces of her crew. These were the people who had spent their lives preparing to defend humanity's freedom. The decision of whether to show mercy or complete the destruction of the invading fleet was hers to make. "Alien Commander, you came here to conquer our world and enslave our people. Give me one reason why I should allow you to leave alive." There was a long pause before the alien responded. When he spoke again, his voice carried a note of genuine fear. Because we were wrong about your species. We thought you were primitive. We thought you would be easy to defeat. We were following standard procedures for integrating new civilizations into our empire. We did not know that humans were capable of such devastating warfare." "Captain," Vasquez made her decision. The galaxy needed to learn about humanity, and dead aliens could not deliver that message. "You have 1 minute to begin withdrawing from our system. Any ship that does not immediately reverse course will be destroyed. You will return to your leaders and tell them that Earth is under the protection of the human species. Any future attempts at invasion will result in the complete destruction of your fleets." "Understood, human captain. We are withdrawing immediately." Across the tactical display, the surviving alien ships began turning away from Earth and accelerating toward the edge of the solar system. More than 200 vessels had been destroyed or damaged, while the Ragnarok remained completely operational. "Odi, and recall all drones. Prepare damage assessment report." "Drone recall in progress, Captain." Preliminary damage assessment shows minimal hull scoring and elevated armor temperature. All major systems functioning at full capacity. Mission objectives achieved with 0 casualties. Captain Vasquez allowed herself to relax for the first time since the battle began. Humanity had passed its first test as a spacefaring military power. The galaxy would now know that Earth was defended by people who understood warfare in ways that went far beyond simple technology. Lieutenant Chun, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them that the test was successful. The Ragnarok performed exactly as designed. Yes, Captain, and what about our next orders? Captain Vasquez looked out at the stars, knowing that other alien fleets would come. Humanity would need more ships like the Ragnarok, better weapons, stronger defenses. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but humans had proven they could defend themselves. Set course for the construction yards at Ceres Station? We have work to do. Fleet Commander Vixthal watched in horror as his carefully organized battle formation fell apart around him. Ships that had served the Zephyrian hegemony for centuries were being destroyed by weapons that should not exist. His tactical display showed red symbols where proud warships had been just minutes before. Sir, his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic, we have lost 63 ships in the last 4 minutes. The human projectiles are moving too fast for our targeting systems to track. The bridge of Vexel's flagship shook as another salvo of tungsten rods streaked past, missing them by mere kilometers. Each projectile moved so fast that it appeared as a brief flash of light on their sensors. When they hit, they punched through ship hulls like needles through cloth. How is this possible? Demanded Science Officer Kethmer. Kinetic weapons are primitive technology. No civilized species has used mass drivers for warfare in over 2,000 years. Commander Zilkar struggled to maintain her composure as she studied the tactical data. The projectiles are moving at 0.78 light speed. At that velocity, a simple metal rod carries more destructive power than our largest plasma cannons. Vexthal realized with growing dread that his fleet was facing something completely outside their experience. The Zephyrians had spent millennia perfecting energy weapons and shield technology. Their entire military doctrine was based on the assumption that all spacefaring species would follow similar technological paths. The humans had done something different, something that made their own weapons useless. Sir, Sensor Operator Kexival called out urgently, the small objects launched from the human ship are approaching our outer perimeter. I count over 3,000 individual targets. Fighter craft? Vexthal asked. Negative, sir. These objects are much smaller. Each one is approximately half a meter in length. They appear to be some kind of autonomous weapon system. Commander Zilkar activated her point defense protocols. Throughout the fleet, hundreds of automated weapon systems came online, designed to intercept incoming missiles and enemy fighters. These systems had protected Zephyrian fleets for generations against every known type of attack. The first wave of human drones reached the outer ships of the formation. They moved in seemingly random patterns, making them difficult to target. The point defense systems fired desperately, but the drones were too small and too numerous to stop them all. The first drone impacts were devastating. Each tiny craft carried a nuclear warhead that detonated on contact with enemy hulls. The explosions were small by starship standards, but they came in overwhelming numbers. A single ship might be struck by dozens of drones in a matter of seconds. The Korthovel is reporting critical damage, came a panicked communication from the fleet. Multiple hull breaches. They are requesting immediate assistance. The Mechstar is losing power. Their engine core has been damaged by drone impacts. This is the Zixener. We are under attack by hundreds of small craft. Request permission to break formation and withdraw. Vexthal listened to the desperate calls from his ship captains as his fleet faced a type of warfare they had never encountered. The humans were using mass production and overwhelming numbers instead of sophisticated individual weapons. It was crude, simple, and terrifyingly effective. All ships, evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Maximum acceleration, random flight patterns. But even as his ships scattered across space, the human weapons continued to find their targets. The massive battleship that had emerged from the asteroid belt seemed to anticipate every move his vessels made. Its targeting systems tracked multiple targets simultaneously, delivering precise kinetic strikes with mechanical efficiency. "Sir," Kethmore reported with growing alarm, "I'm detecting additional energy signatures throughout the system. The installations hidden in the asteroids are powering up." The tactical display updated to show dozens of weapon platforms scattered throughout the Sol system. Each one was smaller than the main battleship, but together they represented a defensive network that could engage targets anywhere in the system. "How many installations?" Vexthal demanded. "At least 70 confirmed positions, sir, possibly more. They appear to be equipped with the same kinetic weapon systems as the main battleship." The realization hit Vexthal like a physical blow. The humans had not just built one impossible warship. They had constructed an entire defensive system designed specifically to counter galactic military technology. This was not a primitive species stumbling into space warfare. This was a civilization that had been preparing for galactic contact for decades. "Sir," Communications Officer Dalthic announced, "we are receiving transmissions from multiple human installations. They are demanding our immediate surrender. What are their exact words?" Dalthic consulted his translation systems. "The message is being broadcast on all frequencies in our own language. It says, 'Attention invading fleet. You are now surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction.' This is your only warning." Vexthal stared at the tactical display as more of his ships died under the relentless human attack. The aliens, who were supposed to be primitive and helpless, were systematically destroying the finest fleet the Zephyrian hegemony had assembled in centuries. "Sir," Tactical Officer Nexrum reported with obvious fear, "casualty reports are coming in from across the fleet. We have lost 147 ships confirmed destroyed. Another 63 ships report critical damage and are requesting permission to withdraw." 147 ships, Vexthal repeated numbly. In less than 15 minutes of combat, the humans had destroyed nearly 20% of his fleet. At this rate, his entire armada would be eliminated within the hour. "The human weapons are unlike anything in our databases," Kethmore explained desperately. "Their kinetic projectiles ignore our energy shields completely. Our armor plating, designed to deflect plasma and laser fire, offers no protection against solid objects moving at relativistic speeds." Commander Zilkar was studying the human attack patterns with professional desperation. "Sir, their targeting systems appear to be coordinated by some kind of central intelligence. Each shot is precisely calculated for maximum damage. They are not just firing randomly, they are systematically destroying our most valuable ships first." This was true. The human battleship was targeting command vessels, heavy cruisers, and ships equipped with the most advanced weapons. They were not just trying to win the battle, they were trying to cripple the Zephyrian fleet's ability to function as a military force. "Sir," Kexival announced with terror in his voice, "the human ship is launching another wave of drone craft. One count approximately 2,000 additional units." The second drone swarm spread through the Zephyrian formation like a plague. These drones moved differently from the first wave, coordinating their attacks to target specific ship systems. Some focused on engine cores, others attacked weapon mounts, while still others targeted communication arrays. "They are not trying to destroy us quickly," Zilkar realized with growing horror. "They are systematically disabling our fleet piece by piece." The human tactics were unlike anything the Zephyrians had encountered in thousands of years of galactic warfare. Most civilized species fought according to established protocols designed to minimize casualties and preserve valuable ships and equipment. The humans were fighting as if every enemy vessel needed to be completely eliminated. "Sir," Dalthic reported urgently, "we are receiving a direct communication from the human battleship. The captain wishes to speak with you personally." Vexthal hesitated. According to galactic military tradition, enemy commanders only spoke directly when arranging surrender terms. But in this case, he was not sure who would be surrendering to whom. "Put the human captain through." The voice that came through the communication system was female, calm, and completely confident. She spoke in perfect Zephyrian, though with a strange accent that suggested she had learned the language from recordings rather than direct contact. Fleet Commander Vexthal, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Ragnarok. Your fleet has now lost 162 ships with minimal damage to our forces. I am offering you one opportunity to withdraw from our system with your remaining vessels. Vexthal found his voice with difficulty. Human Captain, we did not expect your species to possess such advanced military capabilities. We are not advanced by galactic standards, Captain Vasquez replied. We simply approach warfare differently than you do. While your species perfected energy manipulation, we learned to weaponize fundamental physics. Your shields are useless against kinetic energy. Your targeting systems cannot track objects moving at near-light speed. Your formation tactics assume enemies will fight according to your rules. The human captain was explaining their defeat as if she were teaching a lesson to a student. Vexthal realized that to the humans, this battle was not a desperate struggle for survival. It was a demonstration of superior tactics and engineering. What do you want from us? He asked. Nothing except for you to leave our system and carry a message back to your leaders. Earth is under the protection of the human species. Any future attempts at invasion will result in the complete destruction of your fleets. We have no interest in galactic politics or territorial expansion, but we will defend our homeworld against any threat. Vexthal looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. They all showed the same expression of shock and defeat. The greatest fleet in Zephyrian history had been stopped by a single human ship and tactics they had never imagined. Human Captain, he said finally, if we withdraw now, will you allow our damaged ships to leave safely? You have my word that any vessel leaving the Sol system immediately will not be pursued or attacked. But understand this, if your species returns with hostile intent, we will not show such mercy again. The communication ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Vexthal stared at the tactical display where red symbols marked the positions of his destroyed ships. The humans had offered him terms that no defeated commander could refuse. All ships, he announced on the fleet communication system, begin. Immediate withdrawal from the Sol system. Ships with critical damage will be assisted by nearby vessels. We are returning to Zephyrian space. As his fleet began its retreat, Vexthal tried to understand what had happened. The humans had not just won a battle, they had demonstrated that galactic military superiority was an illusion. A species that the galaxy considered primitive had developed weapons and tactics that made traditional warfare obsolete. Sir Kethmore said quietly, what will we tell the Galactic Council? Vexthal considered this question as he watched the human battleship on his display. The massive vessel made no move to pursue his retreating fleet, but its weapons remained trained on them as they fled. We will tell them the truth, he said finally. We will tell them that humanity is not the primitive species we thought they were. We will tell them that Earth is defended by warriors who understand warfare in ways that we do not. And we will recommend that no fleet ever approaches the Sol system with hostile intent again. The withdrawal took several hours as damaged ships struggled to reach the edge of the system. Throughout the retreat, the human defensive installations tracked their movement but did not fire. The humans were allowing them to leave, but the message was clear: they could destroy the entire fleet whenever they chose. As the last Zephyrian ship entered hyperspace and began the journey home, Vexthal knew that galactic civilization had just learned a hard lesson about the dangers of underestimating an unknown species. The humans had emerged from their isolated star system not as subjects to be conquered, but as a new power that would reshape the balance of galactic warfare. The age of easy conquest was over. Humanity had arrived. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been in progress for 3 standard days. Representatives from 47 different species filled the great assembly hall on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. The air hummed with tension as delegates spoke in dozens of languages. their translation devices struggling to keep up with the heated discussions. At the center of the hall, a massive holographic display showed the tactical recordings from Fleet Commander Vexthal's encounter with the human battleship. The images, played over and over, showing Zephyrian warships being destroyed by simple metal projectiles moving at impossible speeds. Every time the recording reached the part where tiny human drones swarmed through the alien formation, several delegates made sounds of distress. Council Speaker Karthus, an ancient being from the Altarian Republic, called for order as the arguments grew louder. Her forearms gestured for silence while her translator converted her words into the languages of all attending species. "We are here to discuss the implications of first contact with the species known as humans," she announced. "Fleet Commander Vexthal will present his report." Vexthal stepped forward to the speaking platform. The once proud military commander looked older than his years, his scales dulled by the stress of recent events. The battle in the Sol system had changed him, in ways that went beyond mere military defeat. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the assembly hall, "I must report that our intelligence about the human species was completely incorrect. They are not primitive, they are not helpless, and they are definitely not ready to become a tributary species." A murmur of concern rippled through the assembled delegates. The Galactic Council had been integrating primitive species for thousands of years using the same proven methods. The idea that these methods had failed was deeply troubling. "Explain the nature of their weapons," demanded General Kexmore of the Hegemony Defense Force. "Our scientists find it difficult to believe that kinetic projectiles could defeat energy shields." Vexthal activated the holographic display, showing detailed sensor readings from the battle. The humans fire solid metal rods at velocities approaching light speed. At such speeds, the kinetic energy is enormous. Our shields, designed to absorb and deflect energy weapons, offer no protection against pure mass moving at relativistic velocities. Dr. Yelanash, the Council's chief scientist, studied the data with obvious disbelief. Such weapons should be impossible to build. The energy requirements to accelerate solid matter to such speeds would be enormous. "The humans appear to have solved this problem," Vexthal replied grimly. "Their battleship generates more power than some small planets. They have taken a completely different approach to military technology." Ambassador Zektai from the Crystalline Confederacy rose from his seat. His crystalline body reflected the light from the holographic display in rainbow patterns. "What about their numbers? Surely one ship cannot represent a significant threat to galactic civilization." This was the question that Vexthal had been dreading. The answer would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. "Intelligence suggests that the ship we encountered was not unique," he said quietly. "Deep space monitoring stations have detected construction activity throughout the human star system. They appear to be building multiple vessels of similar design." The assembly hall erupted in concerned voices. Delegates turned to each other, speaking rapidly in their native languages. The translation systems created a cacophony of overlapping conversations about threat levels, military responses, and diplomatic solutions. Council Speaker Karthus called for order again. "What are the human demands? What do they want from the galactic community?" "That is the most unusual aspect of this encounter," Vexthal admitted. "They made no demands for territory, resources, or political recognition. They simply want to be left alone." Their exact words were that Earth is under the protection of the human species and that any future invasion attempts would result in complete destruction of attacking fleets. Ambassador Mordain from the Traders Union leaned forward in her seat. "Did they express any interest in trade relationships or cultural exchange?" "No," Vexthal replied. "They appear to have no desire for contact with galactic civilization. They view us as a potential threat to be deterred, not as potential allies or trading partners." This information caused another wave of discussion among the delegates. Most species were eager to join galactic civilization once they learned of its existence. The humans seemed to be the first species that wanted nothing to do with the rest of the galaxy. What is the assessment of their overall military capability? Asked General Kexmore. Vexthal consulted his datapad before answering. Based on the performance of their single battleship, a human fleet of even moderate size could pose a significant threat to any military force in the galaxy. Their weapons ignore our defensive systems, and their tactics are unlike anything we have encountered. Surely their industrial capacity is limited, suggested Trade Representative Hulkar. They are confined to a single star system with primitive manufacturing capabilities. Our assumptions about human industrial capacity may also be incorrect, Dr. Yelenash interjected. She had been studying the technical data from the battle. The complexity of their battleship suggests a manufacturing base far more advanced than our intelligence indicated. To build weapon systems of this sophistication requires industrial capabilities that we severely underestimated. The Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If the humans could build one impossible battleship, they could build more. If their manufacturing capabilities were greater than expected, they might already be constructing a fleet that could challenge any power in the galaxy. What are our options? Council Speaker Karthus asked the Assembly. General Kexmore was the first to respond. We could assemble a combined fleet from all member species. Even human weapons could not stand against the united military might of galactic civilization. And if we lose? Challenged Ambassador Zektal. If their weapons prove as effective against a larger fleet as they did against the Zephyrian Armada, we would be handing them a victory that would establish them as the dominant military power in the galaxy. The risk is too great, agreed Ambassador Mordain. We know almost nothing about their true capabilities. For all we know, that single battleship was just a scout vessel. Dr. Yelenash activated her own holographic display, showing star charts of the local galactic region. There is another consideration. The human star system is in a strategically important location. If they choose to expand beyond their current borders, they could control several major trade routes. They said they have no interest in territorial expansion, Vexthal reminded the Assembly. Species change their minds, General Kexmore replied darkly. Once they realize their military advantage, they may decide that galactic conquest is within their reach. Ambassador Zektal stood again, his crystalline form catching the light as he addressed the Assembly. We are discussing military action against a species that has not attacked anyone. They defended their home system against what they perceived as an invasion force. By galactic law, they were within their rights to do so. But they were supposed to surrender, protested Trade Representative Hulkar. Standard integration protocols have worked for thousands of years. Primitive species always surrender when faced with superior technology. Perhaps that is the problem, suggested Dr. Yelenash thoughtfully. We have been dealing with primitive species for so long that we forgot how to handle a species that is not primitive. The humans may be technologically different from us, but they are clearly not technologically inferior. Council Speaker Karthus considered the arguments from all sides. As the leader of the Galactic Council, her decision would affect the future of interstellar relations for generations to come. What do we know about human history? She asked. How do they typically resolve conflicts with other groups of their own species? Vexthal consulted his intelligence files. Human history is marked by frequent warfare between different groups on their homeworld. They appear to be a naturally aggressive species that has spent most of their civilization fighting among themselves. That suggests they are experienced at warfare, observed General Kexmore grimly. It also suggests they understand the concept of deterrence, added Ambassador Mordain. Species that fight among themselves often develop sophisticated ideas about preventing conflicts through displays of strength. The question remains, said Council Speaker Karthus. What action should the Galactic Council take regarding the human species? The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued for immediate military action to eliminate the human threat before it could grow larger. Others suggested diplomatic contact to establish peaceful relations. Still, others recommended a policy of complete avoidance until more information could be gathered. Finally, Dr. Yelanesh presented a proposal that gained support from representatives across the political spectrum. "I suggest we classify the Sol system as a restricted zone," she sighed. "No ships are to approach within 5 light-years of the human homeworld without specific authorization from this council. We establish monitoring stations at a safe distance to observe human activities and technological development. Most importantly, we make it clear to all member species that the humans are not to be considered a target for integration or conquest." "And if they expand beyond their current system?" asked General Kexmore. "Then we reassess the situation based on their actions," Dr. Yelanesh replied. "If they prove to be aggressive expansionists, we deal with them as a military threat. If they establish peaceful colonies and show no interest in conquest, we treat them as any other spacefaring species." The vote was close, but the proposal passed. The Sol system would be placed under quarantine, not to contain the humans, but to protect the rest of the galaxy from accidentally provoking them. As the assembly broke up and delegates began returning to their homeworlds, many carried with them a new understanding of their place in the galaxy. For thousands of years, galactic civilization had been the undisputed master of known space. Primitive species were easily conquered or integrated, and no external threats challenged their superiority. Now there was a species that had rejected integration, defeated a major military fleet, and demonstrated weapons technology that made traditional defenses obsolete. The humans had not asked to join galactic civilization, but they had already changed it forever. In hidden shipyards throughout the Sol system, construction continued on humanity's second and third battleships. Earth's leaders were incorporating lessons learned from the first battle, making each new vessel more deadly than the last. They had no desire to conquer the galaxy, but they were determined to ensure that no alien fleet would ever threaten their homeworld again. The galaxy had awakened a sleeping giant, and humanity was just getting started. The age of easy conquest was over, and the age of human determination had begun. The stars themselves would bear witness to what happened when a species that refused to surrender met a universe that expected them to kneel. The message was clear: humanity had arrived, and they would not be going quietly into the night.